Hello there and welcome to this month's edition of the Manitowoc Ice Monthly Spotlight. My name is Jason MacDonald, Technical Service Trainer here at Manitowoc Ice. Today we're going to talk about the changes to Neo and how that's affected our sequence of operations. So Neo's been around since 2013. It's not exactly new anymore, so Neo needed a refresh. Let's talk about what we did to refresh this Neo. As we do every month, there will be a seminar quiz at the end of this. We're going to ask for some information, your name, the company, is this the first one you viewed? Big thing we're looking for, though, is that email address, because when it's done, we're going to send you a PDF version of the presentation and a certificate of completion. Without that email, we don't have a way to get back to you. So at the end of this, you'll see a link, a QR code, and we'll also put the link into the comment section once this posts on our YouTube channel. All right, so what's different? What changed? Because the name didn't. Well, the refrigerant did, for one thing, but also the air filter now pulls out from the front. We have onboard water filtration. That was the big game changer to me. You've been there, you've installed these machines. Sometimes there's not a lot of room to get the ice machine in place, let alone filtration. So now it's on board. And the thing that I really like personally is that's an auto bypassing head. Turn that ice machine off, pull the filter out, turn it back on. So, hey, the customer didn't have a filter sitting in the back room. You didn't have one sitting on your service van. You're there to do some service work, preventative maintenance, corrective maintenance, just some sort of maintenance. That's what we do here. Well, filter's plugged. You can't tell a customer on a Friday night that their only ice machine is down because of a water filter. Well, you don't have to with this one. So, turn the ice machine off, take the filter out, and then just turn it back on. Come back on Monday with a filter and you're good. We've also enhanced the touchpad. So you're going to see that here in a bit. We're going to take the dual screen off and we're going to show you a little bit about the ice machine. One of the big things that you're going to notice between our refreshed Neo and the previous iteration of Neo is that we've embossed the Manitowoc name into the door. So just coming from a distance, you're going to see that there alone. And obviously the touchpad is different, which we'll show you a little bit more once we go back to the dual screen. And the big key here, this filter door. You're going to see the snowflake. That's where your water filter's hiding. So just pinch this door, this little tab here, and the door will come out. Turn to the left, it removes the water filter. Get yourself a new filter. Go ahead and put the old filter off into the recycling, the garbage, whatever you have to do. Put the new filter in and turn until it seats. Push this door up. To get that click, I'm a big fan of pushing right here because you get that nice snap action right away. Another thing that's different, as we discussed, the air filter pulls out of the front. To me, that's a big deal because on machines that did not have the front pull air filter, if you installed this ice machine without the legs, that tool-free access when you're pulling it down from the bottom, you lose that. So now, legs, no legs, just pull it out of the front. And it's there. You can take this over to a sink, you clean it up real nice, you bring it back, you put it back in. Have to stress this part though. This is not keyed or pokey-oked in a way to prevent me from putting it in backwards. I just put the filter in backwards. Well, that hard plastic there, it's covering about 25% of your air condenser. You don't want to be covering 25% of your air condenser. You want a clean condenser, breathing and being protected by an air filter. So take that back out. Let's put that in correctly. And it just runs along a track sitting there by the condenser. So those are the big differences that you'll see on the machine. We're going to head back over to the desk and go back to the split screen so you can see everything else a little more closely and little more appealing. So let's talk about what changed with the touchpad. We showed you that there's an onboard filtration light. Well, we're going to tell you about every light first. So the on-off button, that blue button at the top, push and hold it for 3 seconds and let go. It's going to turn that ice machine on. You'll be able to tell because the blue light underneath that will have turned on. Now we're in a normal sequence of operations. Our delay button. Keep in mind, you cannot delay this ice machine when you're off. You're already delayed. You're delayed until you turn the ice machine back on. So you can do a couple of things here. You can press it once and let go. It goes to 8 hours, goes to 16 hours. Press it a third time, it turns it off. but we have a repeat symbol there above those numbers. So push it, we're back to 8 hours. Now push and hold it, and the repeat symbol will come on. So now this machine will delay itself every single day from this point on for 8 hours, or until someone decides that they don't need the delay anymore. They need 24 hours of production or anything else. The clean light. We get this one a lot in technical service. Ice machine will not go into clean. I've had this call myself. The first thing that I've always asked that person on the other end of the phone is, what's the ice machine doing right now? And the answer we usually get, well, it's making ice. How much ice is on that evaporator? Any? No, no ice on the evaporator. Well, turn the ice machine off. Turns the ice machine off, pushes the clean button and holds it. Let's go. The yellow light lights up and the machine goes into the clean sequence. You cannot go into clean from an ice making sequence of operations. You can only go into clean from the off state, which is not part of the ice making sequence of operation. But now this filter light. So that's going to come on after 4,000 cycles. It's going to light up blue, telling you, hey, it's time to change that filter. Now, this is not a timer. This is based on actual cycles, drops of ice. We froze ice, we harvested, drop. That's 1. It's going to count up to 4,000. At that point, that would have been 6 months of consistent operation, never shutting down because of full or anything else of the like. So 6 months, you're going to get this light to come on, but really it's going off a cycle count, letting you know, hey, it's time to replace that filter. Now, what do we do with that? Well, you replace the filter and then you push and hold this button for 4 seconds. You just push and hold, let go. It's now going to create a flush and activate the carbon inside of that filter. It's going to energize the water inlet valve and the water dump valve. So that way it can get through and activate that filter for you. So that way it'll actually filter that water and allow water to come into the ice machine. That's going to take about 5 minutes. Turn the ice machine back on and let it start running. We have now reset that counter. Now, we do not have a thing for you to see on this one, but if that light comes on and you know you're running off to the part house tomorrow to get a new filter, all you can do is push that briefly, 1 second, just push, and that light will go out for 24 hours. And there is a handshake that you could do to turn that light off entirely. See the installation, operation, and maintenance manual or your service technician's handbook. If your customer has a full building solution for their water, reverse osmosis, anything else that you do not want to be utilizing this filter because you've already purified your water, you push and hold the clean button you push and hold the filter button and you push and release the delay button and it'll deactivate that light. Now, my favorite light, the full bin light. This one is great from a distance for the customer and even for a service technician. If you're told, hey, this ice machine's not making ice, and you're still just walking up to it, we haven't done any troubleshooting, you just jumped the gun and made that phone call right away. First question I'm going to have for you, what lights are lit on the touchpad? If you tell me that the cube light, which is off right now, telling me that we're not on full bin, or that light turned on, telling us we're on full bin. Well, you open up that bin door, there's no ice in there. Well, now we know what we have to troubleshoot. Is the damper on? Is the damper in another room? Is the damper on backwards? Well, none of those things are true. We're really talking about changes here, not so much troubleshooting, but for those of you who've been doing this a while, damper's in place, magnets on the damper, everything's good, well, then you know that you're looking at the bin switch or a loose ground or anything else of the like. And then the wrench light. This wrench light can do one of a couple of things. If you saw what you see on the screen now, the power light is lit, the machine is operating, and the wrench light is flashing. That's letting you know I've had a safety limit. Not enough to lock me out, but it's happened. I'm letting you know I need your attention so I don't lock out. Well, nobody paid attention. Goes to solid, the machine's not running. Now we're locked out on a safety limit. To retrieve that safety, turn the ice machine back on, count the number of flashes. It'll flash 1, 2, or 3 times for the corresponding safety limit that would have shut you down. All right, but let's talk about our sequence of operations and see what changed from the previous iteration of Neo to our new Neo, our refreshed Neo. Well, just like the old Neo, the new Neo, you push the power button to start the ice machine. Now we're going to start a sequence of operations. Keep in mind, current production is still utilizing new Neo, previous iteration of Neo, a water trough thermistor. All right, so we're going to purge first. At the initial startup, no matter how long it's been off, brand new install, you turned it off for 17 days, you winterized it, came back 3 months later, does not matter. The first thing we're going to do is a timed purge. Energize the dump valve and the harvest valve for 20 seconds. It's going to allow us to drain any mineral-laden water that's been sitting in there and to do a softer startup by equalizing our refrigeration system. Then we're going to start up. At this point, we're going to stop energizing the dump valve. We're going to leave that harvest valve on, and we're going to call for the contactor and start up the refrigeration system. This is going to last 5 seconds. Now we're going to go to pre-chill. Pre-chill's purpose is to get the plate well below the temperature of the incoming water supply to prevent slush. That's why on the first cycle from an off state or coming out of a full bin, it's going to be 2 minutes long. After a harvest, it'll be a minute long. So at this point, we're going to start filling the water trough until the ice thickness float switch, that front float with the black wire, is satisfied. When that ball comes up, it'll create an open circuit and the high level float light on the board will light up. At that point, we're going to stop filling, but pre-chill is based on time. We're going to continue pre-cooling that plate as a way to prevent slush. One thing that needs to be highlighted, just because that float came up, got to keep in mind, water swishes. You could just swish up and bring that ball up, but it's not all the way up. So as soon as we get that open circuit from that float, the board is designed and required to keep the water inlet valve on for an additional 5 seconds. Now we're in freeze. Here we're going to have some differences. Not what we energize, but our maximum. The old iteration of Neo, depending on what version of software you had, we had a 60-minute maximum freeze, a 45-minute maximum freeze, and a 35-minute maximum freeze. These UP bottles, that P calling out R290 for the refrigerant, the new Neo, has a 45-minute maximum freeze cycle. We're going to have the contactor energized. The fan has the potential to run at this point, and if it's a water-cooled unit, the water regulating valve has the potential to let water through the condenser, and the water pump's going to come on. We will energize the water inlet valve again, or if we haven't satisfied in the first place, 2 minutes in freeze. Now that water trough thermistor, it's basically doing a second pre-chill. When that thermistor senses 34-degree temperature, it sends a value to the board. The board says, okay, 34-degree water trough. So what we're going to do at that point is we're going to de-energize the water pump and basically just cool the plate again for 25 seconds. As the water pump comes back on, we are going to do a 7-second fill of the water trough. This is independent of what water level is in the water trough. Nothing breaks up slush better than an injection of fresh water. So having your water supply at the right pressure, 20 psi minimum, 80 psi maximum, putting the correct water valve in the correct machine should you have replaced one for some reason. They're not all the same. They have different GPM flow rates. Correct pressure, correct install, correct parts. This is important because if any of that's wrong, that 7-second fill can cause you to overflow the trough and cause you to stay in freeze a lot longer. Because what are we looking for to come out of freeze? Well, we're looking for the harvest float switch. Keep in mind, with that pump pause, should that thermistor have failed, it has failed closed or failed open, it is now going to default to time. At 3 minutes and 45 seconds, that 25-second pause of the pump and the 7-second fill of water is going to take place. So if the thermistor has failed, which you could see there, that red arrow on the screen is pointing to the Therm 1 LED. If you unplug that thermistor from the board, everybody stop unplugging thermistors from the board. There is no reason to do so anymore. But if you did, that light's going to flash. Now, if that thermistor has failed, it's also going to flash, and it's going to default to time. But in freeze, what we're looking for is to consume our water and for the harvest float switch to go down, that's the one in back with the red wire, to go down and create a closed circuit in 45 minutes or less. Should we not consume that water, convert it into ice, and the float switch does not go down, does not create a closed circuit, at 45 minutes, the board says that's enough. It's time for harvest whether you're ready or not. So what do these switches do? Kind of really covered it, but the thing that throws everybody off is when the ball is up, the light is on, and it is an open circuit. And when the ball is down, the light is off and creates a closed circuit. So we're going to energize our inlet valve, and the front float, the ice thickness float switch, is what controls how much water comes into the system. Now we're in freeze. We're consuming that water. We're putting ice on the plate. That water's getting converted. Now, the back float, its only job, the harvest float switch, is to tell that board, I'm out of water. Well, if you're out of water, you should have an evaporator full of ice. It's time to harvest. And you can adjust the ice thickness float switch between the three settings. The left-hand one on the front of the water trough there will sit higher. You'll bring in more water. You'll have to convert more water to ice, so thicker ice, and the inverse is true. At the lower setting on the right, it sits lower, less water, thinner ice. The harvest float is non-adjustable. It goes right where you see on the screen. There's a notch in that bracket that allows it to hug that bump out furthest to the back on the left side of the trough, and then the slit in the bracket sits on the next one closest to you. You see those other two, they don't have a purpose. Do not use them. Now harvest. We're going to talk about the whole harvest, and this is where something has changed as well. There has been a variable dump on Neo since 2018, but that changes here with Neo, the new Neo, the propane R290 version of the ice machine with the onboard filtration. So if you are in a part of the sequence where it's supposed to purge, the old Neo, that was every third harvest cycle. We'll talk about what it does on the new Neo. We would energize the dump valve, the harvest valve, and we'd still have the contactor pulled in. We're now trying to melt part of the back of that sheet and allow it to slide off of that nickel-plated evaporator and fall into the bin, knock the damper, and go back into another pre-chill. Current production of Neo, the new Neo, this will happen every fourth harvest. So, initial startup, you're not going to dump and harvest because you dump on the initial start before you even get to pre-chill, before refrigeration starts, before you get to freeze. So, out of the box, first cycle, second cycle, third cycle, we do not purge and harvest. Fourth cycle, we do, and then so on. You'll skip 3, on the fourth you'll dump. This was done to meet Department of Energy and EPA regulations. But let's say, you know what, even filtration is not enough because there's just so much something in your water, whether it's lime, iron, I don't know what it is. You need a bigger treatment, but you don't want to treat it anymore. Well, maybe dumping every cycle is the answer. So you can handshake your way out of this. Press and hold the clean button while making ice for 3 seconds. Press and release the delay button, and you'll end up flashing 5 times to go into every harvest. And let's say now, hey, we've gone to every harvest, but that customer decided, you know what, we're really going to treat that water. Because not only is the ice machine dealing with it, everything else is dealing with it. So we treated the water. Do the inverse. Press and hold the clean button while in an ice making cycle. Press the delay button and release. At that point, that wrench light will flash 6 times to go back to every fourth harvest. Now, the rest of harvest, when we're not purging, whether it's cycle 1, 2, or 3 because you didn't handshake out, or it's cycle 4 or cycle 1 through infinity because you did handshake out. At this point, we stop energizing the dump valve, and all we're doing is running the refrigeration system and letting discharge gas pass through the harvest valve to go to the evaporator and melt that sheet of ice. 7-minute maximum harvest. After 7 minutes, we're going back into another cycle. We do have a water assist because after 3.5 minutes, whatever heat you had built up in freeze is pretty much gone. So at 3.5 minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to energize the water inlet valve, and we are going to fill up the water trough until the high float, the ice thickness float switch, is satisfied, or 105 seconds, whichever one happens first. At 4 minutes, we'll energize the water pump, and start doing a water-assisted harvest. Because again, whatever heat we had is pretty much gone. We need that water to give us a little more oomph to get us through this harvest in 7 minutes. At 6.5 minutes, we're going to energize the dump valve and start draining that water out. At any point during harvest, whether it's 7 seconds in, we don't harvest in 7 seconds, anyone, but whether it's a minute in or whether it's at 6:59, if that ice falls off, hits the damper, damper comes back up before 7 minutes has passed, you go back into pre-chill. If you do not harvest in 7 minutes, the damper started up, it stayed up, 6:59, 7 minutes. We're going to go into a 5.7 minute water thaw. It's going to just run some water over that system and allow it to melt that out. But normal sequence, what we're looking for is you go into harvest, the damper is up and closed. Ice slides forward, hits the damper, damper goes down, damper comes back up. If the damper goes open and closed within 30 seconds, go back to pre-chill. However, if that damper comes open and stays open for 30 consecutive seconds, because there's nowhere for the ice to go, or because we melted out enough to make that batch not heavy enough to fall, you go into full bin. And then we're looking for two things on the Neo. We need the damper to come closed and a 3-minute delay to have expired. This is not this then. It's not the damper comes closed and then 3 minutes. It's the damper and 3 minutes. Why am I harping on this? Well, because I've heard false full bin a number of times since I've worked here. There's no such thing. We're sliding off 28, 29, 30, drop 31. Guess what? You have 2 minutes and 59 seconds of full bin to get past. The damper's closed, but you haven't been off on full bin for the full 3 minutes. Auto restart, go back to the initial sequence of operations. That'll also be true for what goes on with your every fourth purge on the current Neo or every third purge in harvest on the previous Neo. And that ice thaw cycle, here's what it's doing, should you have not dropped in 7 minutes. Just telling you what energizes when and for how long. Again, it's 5.7 minutes, about 5 minutes and 40 seconds. It's just going to run some water to try to melt that out, and then it's going to start from the initial sequence of operations. Another feature that was added to this machine is a clogged drain while in clean feature. Should the dump valve fail to drain the trough out and the harvest float switch, the one in back with the red wire, does not go down, what's going to happen is it's going to terminate the clean cycle, and this is what you'll see. The clean LED below the clean button will flash. The clean LED on the control board will also flash. So if you're seeing this and the machine's not doing anything, well, at that point, you're going to probably want to check the trough first. Let's be sure that it didn't just get all restricted. Got a bunch of scales sitting in your drain line where it cannot drain out. Well, resolve that, put it back into clean, and let it do its job. Nope, empty trough. Well, be sure that the harvest float, that the ball isn't just stuck because of some scale. Nope, not even that either. Well, at that point, you're going to start troubleshooting that float. Again, we're not really going into troubleshooting today, so please refer to your technician's handbook, and remember that we told you today when the ball is up, it is a open circuit, and when the ball is down, it's a closed circuit. I have put one of those floats back together backwards, and that made that swap on me, so be careful when you take these things apart. Would like to tell you guys all about the 2025 and 2026 Level 3 Factory School. We've got our schedule up here on the screen now. Please go to manitowocice.com, click on Service, click on Training, and Level 3 Factory School. You'll see the schedule. You'll also see a link to the registration. But why else did we do the quiz? Because for every 25 submissions that we get between when this one goes live, this spotlight, and the next spotlight going live, we will draw a name. For every 25 quiz submissions, we will draw one name. And if you win, you'll get this little goodie bag, a tote with our snowflake, a hat, a tape measure, and usually anything else we can find. I think that's a mirror down there, or it's a set of Band-Aids, one of the two. I'd have to look. But again, 50, well then we pull two. So I'm very happy to have told you what's changed with the Neo Undercounter Ice Machine. Again, my name is Jason MacDonald, Technical Service Trainer here at Manitowoc Ice. I'm going to leave this QR code up on the screen. If you are watching this on a desktop or laptop, the URL for the quiz will also be in the comments below. Again, thank you for watching and have a good day.